Okay, so I've been giving a lot of thought to a lot of things, as is my normal mode of operation, I suppose. And there's a lot of stuff to be said. Unfortunately, many people don't watch these things or take the time to digest them and, in fact, come back with comments. So, if you find the time to watch this thing in its entirety, thank you. What I would appreciate is some feedback. I actually want to um, have your input. I would like to hear your views. One of the things that I constantly am faced with the lack of feedback is the introspection about my own opinions and how correct they are. It's quite likely that I have the whole thing screwed up. Maybe everything's perfect. Maybe everything is in such good condition that and it's just me that's a little bit delusional. I don't know, but without the feedback it's difficult to gauge. So I'd prefer that you would, if you could take the time to comment on it, that would be great. If the comment is just a thumbs up or something, well, okay, that's cool. But if you have any thoughts on it, let me know, because I think it's pretty important that we try and get some sort of dialogue going about this. There are many people in the country trying to do that. There are many people trying to get make some sense out of all of the chaos. In fact, I think there are a lot of people the world over trying to do that, and it's probably no more than ever have been in history before. But obviously, with social media, it becomes easier for people to actually express opinion and share opinion. And the only way that becomes effective or worth anything really is if people like you that are watching this, that are taking the time to watch this, is if you comment on it, if you reciprocate in some way. It doesn't have to turn into a 9-hour lecture series, but it would be good if there is a little bit of back and forth, so that those of us that are trying to make sense of it in a public manner, that we have a little sort of reassurance in the background that we're not all going down the wrong path here. And look, it's difficult to believe, frankly, that I would be going down the wrong path. There are a number of people that do agree with this, but it's good to have opinion, even if it's alternate opinion. You know, if and I've always worked on this basis that if somebody has an alternative view, I welcome it. I would like to disassemble it and understand it and see how they arrived at that way of thinking, because that helps me be perhaps a better version of me or a different version of me. So that's useful. Anyway, let's talk. I'm going to talk. You listen. I hope some of it makes sense. This is such a multifaceted situation that it's difficult to know where to actually start. Last night, I was standing at the polling station and I was speaking to one of the community members. And they were saying to me, isn't there some way that we can take the municipality to court and tell them that we don't want their services anymore and all of that? And one of the problems with this is, of course, that the person that was asking this, and it's like many other people, it's not just him, there are many people like this that are thinking like this. But the problem is that they don't come to the meetings and they are not privy to the discussions that we have in this regard or have had in the past about this stuff. But it's evident that there are a number of people that are quite keen to see things change. And I understand that a lot of people want change and they want the situation that they're faced with currently to be different because they're tired of it. Unfortunately, the majority of people don't care to put any effort into making it change because, for whatever reason, maybe they're too engrossed in survival, and we understand this, of course. Things are more difficult than they've probably ever been. Even though you live in a version of the world now that is probably easier to live in than any other time in history, even though it does seem to be sliding down the face of a cliff rather rapidly, it's still quite easy to live nowadays, no matter where you are on the planet, given that it's all screwed up. Anyway, point is, I was talking to the fellow last night outside the polling station, and we were having a general discussion about the fact that is there nothing, or he was asking, is there nothing that we can do? Aren't there lawyers in the community and all of this that can assist with all of this? And I made a couple of points, and I think that they're relevant to share with you. So we have explored this type of thing and are exploring it on an ongoing basis, trying to work out some way of forming a ratepayers association, an effective association though, that is inclusive of everybody. And that's where our first problem starts, is the inclusion. You can want for it to be as inclusive as possible. And the problem with inclusion is, of course, that only the people that see the problem for what it is and want to be included will be included. I explained something to him about something that's happening in the area, or has been happening in the area. We have been, when I say we, I'm talking about Helm, the handful of response team members and people that help out, and the people that do participate. I'm talking about the handful. And in relative terms, a handful. I understand that there are roughly 800 people on the group, and if in reality 50 of them are active, it's a lot. And when you take that as a representation of the population of the area, it's a very small percentage. So one of the things I was explaining was that we have these volunteers that go out and we do all sorts of things, whether it's fighting fires or dealing with motor vehicle accident scenes and things like that, or assisting law enforcement with various things, or something that a lot of you will be able to probably more easily relate to, and that is fixing potholes. If you live in this country, you know what a pothole is, that's for sure. I'm sure it's like that around the rest of the world as well. There are places that are also a dog's breakfast. It's an absolute shambles. But the point I'm leading to here is that we have this collective effort, this group effort, and we go out and we do what we can do with very scant resources. Now, part of our problem is from an administrative perspective. Admin costs money, and mainly because it takes time. And gathering the resources, whether it's, let's talk about potholes, whether it's the equipment required to do the work, or the stuff to put in the hole, it all costs money, it all takes time. And despite our efforts, my efforts with Helm, with the community, we still end up with people doing their own thing. And it's admirable, it's great that people want to do their own thing. But what I have trouble understanding is that people don't seem to understand the value in a collective approach. Now, you need to also put into your thinking here that I'm not suggesting for one moment that there is some sort of socialist concern in the offing here. I understand that individuals, we as people culturally, we want to be individuals. We want to explore life independently, and that people shy away from doing the whole social cohesion thing is understandable. But in in a situation where we have been without any sort of municipal maintenance for the past 3 decades, effectively, you would expect by now that people would see the sense in coming together and actually doing what's needed, what's necessary. Actually coming together and looking at the goal collectively and dealing with it as a business. Sort of maximizing the effort, as it were. Now, in business, it's an obvious thing that we should be doing that. How is it then that we don't seem to be doing that in the community? And the person I was speaking to last night, I asked the question of him. I said, why is it that you don't come to the meetings? And his response is quite simple. He doesn't like crowds. He doesn't like coming to meetings. And I can understand that. When you see some of the people who come to the meetings, you'll understand that too. But the point is this. So let me go back a step. Some meetings, our Helm meetings, actually, I think they're attended by a pretty nice bunch of people. Anyway, I can understand his reticence to come to a meeting and get involved in that way, just because from a personality perspective, that's how he is. And I have no desire to change people's personalities. But it does beg the question: how bad does it need to get before everybody does put those little differences aside and say, right, yeah, for the collective good, and understand that the collective good includes you. For the collective good, then I'll come along to this meeting and I'll attend and see what the plan is, and go out there and try and fit in with the bigger plan, the bigger picture. And we've proven in the past that it can be effective. It's difficult to explain how effective that is to people that have never been concerned with involving themselves. But the other end of this whole thing is that historically, I think it can be proven that people will only get involved in the numbers that are required once it gets to a point where it's absolute chaos, when it's so bad that there's no other option. Now, you would do well to think about that historically. Why is it that as human beings, we seem not to learn from mistakes? Despite all of the evidence, there's enough recent historical evidence to support the fact that it's easier to fix the problem before it becomes an unfixable problem. And so, once the wheels have fallen off completely, it becomes very, very difficult it's already difficult to fix what's being broken systematically by people that are incapable of managing things effectively. But once the wheels have fallen off completely, then it becomes even more difficult. And you need to wonder, what is it about human beings that they are not able to put their differences aside and look at the bigger picture? Is it that their differences are so much more important than the collective, than the whole, than the effect, the negative effect on the whole of not doing anything? Is that it? Where's the shortcoming? Why is it that people don't seem to be able to see the value in just saying, okay, I don't speak the same language as you, I don't go to the same church, I don't eat meat, I don't eat Brussels sprouts, I'm not the same. We know that we are not the same. None of us are. But is there not enough commonality for everyone to just put those little differences aside? And when you view those differences in relation to the result that comes from not putting those differences aside, those differences are nothing. those things that make you, you, and me, me, those differences are in fact nothing compared to the chaos that awaits us. This is getting quite long and it's gone off at a bit of a tangent, so I think I'll stop this here and continue it. Maybe there'll be a part 2. And once again, like I said at the beginning, I'd appreciate your comments on this, because it helps me gauge whether or not it's actually even worth sitting down and doing this stuff. One of the problems with what we are trying to change is changing stuff at a local level. Changing stuff at an individual level is relatively easy. Trying to convince a government, albeit local, that we want things done differently, that is a difficult task, because you have, in the entire situation, you have a complexity, a myriad of personalities and egos and everything at play, and the intention is somewhat skewed. So anyway, I'll end this here and continue just now with something a bit more structured, I think. Give this a listen. I hope you end up watching the whole thing, and I hope you end up actually sharing some thoughts and some comments on it.